be your DJ. You want to hear fella, go pay him pikin. Man lived his whole life, left a legacy behind. Question tonight is, what kind of legacy are we going to leave behind? Welcome and good evening. This is again Youth Quick. That's the part where this silly old man pretends to be a broadcaster and then pretends to have some knowledge worthy of invitation. So tonight, I've decided I'm going to bore you. And what I want to talk about is Nigeria and the global community. With a subtext saying Nigeria, who and what are we in the eyes of the world? My name's remain Delefaro today. And once again, welcome tonight to Youth Quick. If we're asking ourselves, or if we're talking about Nigeria and the global community, we're talking about our relationship with the rest of the world, how we're seen by them, who are we to them, how do they see us? But to help us get a grip of this, it's important that, first of all, we've all agreed that there is no Nigerian nation, there is a Nigerian state. In that Nigerian state, we must understand that it wasn't created for the good of the people who are today called Nigerians. Now, that had nothing to do in the thinking of the British. Band of pirates, brutal colonialists, slavers, rapists, looters. They didn't even see us as humans. They happened on our shores. And once they landed here, it was companies, Niger Trading Company or whatever they call themselves, forebearers of today's UAC, and most of the others. They came around there and they were busy signing treaties and what have you with all kinds of chiefs and things there and there. Barely literate. In fact, it's definitely not. It's just like today's treaties that we are signing with the Chinese. You understand, right? We don't read the language. We know no, but don't let me get ahead of myself. Just suffice to say that in those days too, there were chiefs, not unlike our rulers today. And they did a fantastic job. They signed all form of treaties. People were signing away things that they didn't own, signing treaties they couldn't read. Yeah, you can make the connection. Chinese things, yes. So they were signing all kinds of treaties, and eventually, the Niger Trading Company was bought out by the British government, who took a private possession, and we became the crown possession. If you really want the detailed history, you would have to go read up on all of that yourself. But suffice to say, a band of pirates, rapists, racists, slavers, traders, they came to our shores and we became their possession. So people who never had anything to do with each other, maybe people have always, but you know, we always worshipped our natural barriers. Not that we worship them, that would be me committing an heresy. No, we didn't worship them, but we referenced them, and they were the natural barriers between tribes. So we really crossed rivers. How would you cross the river to the other side? You know what I'm saying? So always, but they came and they brought all of us together. So we had the Nigerian, first it was protectorate of, I believe, anyway, we had protectorates. There was the South, there was the North, there was the colony of Lagos. And then, of course, at some point, 1914, you've heard the story, they lumped us together and we became known as the British possession. So as far as the rest of the world was concerned, we were the British possession. We were in what was known as the British sphere of influence. So aside from the fact that that was after the colonial thing, right? So first of all, you have to deal with the history of colonialism, where people were brought together solely for the purpose of the convenience of the British masters. So of course, disparate people were brought together. Yorubas who really traveled out of their lands, the adventurous Igbo man, Fulanis who have always been pastoralists, with few of them settling in places like the Adamawa part, and of course, the coming of the Uthman Danfodio thing. Then everybody started mixing together in this potpourri. So, of course, we were in the British sphere. So don't let me travel too far in that side. But the key thing you must understand is that at the end of the day, we were created for the convenience of the British. So, having been created for the convenience of the British packed up after all of the story about colonialism, the colonial, the independence struggle, as it were. They left us, but now they've left us. We were in what was then known as the sphere of influence, the British sphere of influence. So we were part of their overseas possession to an extent. They were allowed to run riots around there, interfere in our internal affairs. Even the Americans would not really bother too much. If the Americans wanted to do anything here, they had to go back to them. So it was their show to run, more or less. So that was how we were seeing. Now, the thing is, we might see ourselves as tribes after we've been left as a nation, quote and unquote. I agree. No, the secession is take it easy. I'm not suggesting we're a nation. We're still a state. But after we've been left to our own devices, you see, the thing is, just like we have difficulties telling the Chinese apart when we look at them, the whites don't really care whether you are Yoruba, Igbo, Fulani. As far as they're concerned, you're all just black people who happen to come from that place called Africa. If they're a little knowledgeable, they know it's Nigeria. If they've walked around there, they can play with our divisions. But really, we're all just the same. One black person is the same as the next person. You Nigerians might be a special breed because they know you lot really take the crap the rest of Africa generally takes from them. So here is the point. We sit in our space and we're busy dividing ourselves, but they don't divide us. So they see us as one, just one, Nigerians. So when you're busy talking about, you know how you stereotype yourselves, when the Yoruba man would have one story to tell about the Igbo man, or the Hausa man would have to tell about the Igbo man, or the Igbo man would have to tell about the Yoruba man. You know the way we all have these tales to tell, all these stupid stereotypes that we tell ourselves, the divisions our leaders play up on, that we all buy into, especially the Nigerian middle class. You lot make me laugh myself silly sometimes. Your children can't even speak your languages, but you're busy playing stereotypes around them. Oh, the Yoruba, this, the Igbo, that one. They can't even speak your language. They grew up in Lagos. They don't speak Yoruba. They don't speak Igbo. And then you're busy stereotyping yourself. But the thing is that people out there don't see us the way we see ourselves. They just see us as one. So every time you tell a story about the Yoruba man to the white man, or to the Asian, or whoever you're telling the story to, all he sees is you telling your own story. So you're helping him to define who you are. So when you go about the business of reducing a man's humanity on account of his tribe or religion, be careful that you are also busy in the eye of the international community defining yourself, because they can't tell the difference that you have allowed to define you. So point is this, my brothers and my sisters. When they see you and me, they see us as one. So whether we're good, we're bad, all they see is one. That's all they see. And you know, the thing is, we Nigerians, the average African, our brethren in Africa, I've noticed the dichotomy. The males generally have a deep dislike for our, what they see as our lack of manners, maybe perhaps a little modesty or excellence. I don't know, but there's something about us that rubs the men off. The women, on the other hand, generally, I've heard stories of my brothers in the Ecomog space, told to me by a few who have traveled in Liberia and Sierra Leone, and of the immense love that the opposite sex have for the Nigerian male, or the intense dislike that we tend to draw from the male. Have we bothered to ask ourselves why? I had a chat one day with a Gambian friend. When we were talking, the gentleman told me that when he was younger, no, his friend actually, a Sierra Leonean, so he said when they were younger, it used to be that if you can't go to London, go to Lagos. That was in the 80s. You can't go to London, go to Lagos. They saw us as the big brother, the promise of Africa. They looked up to us expecting that we would somehow take everybody else there. That will be the one that will draw the raise up. But I guess as things have progressed, they've become disappointed with us. That has tended to color the way they relate to us. But I do believe that to a very large extent, there is a lot of goodwill out there for the Nigerian. But we do need to define exactly who we are and what we are. Instead of this, anyways, let me talk about the Arabs. The first people to enslave the African were the Arabs. Before the white man, that's the Caucasians, before those ones came here to start enslaving us, the Arabs had been here at least 300 years before that. And it is not by accident that you really find large population of black people in the Arab world. They routinely castrated black slaves. So there is a deep history of Arab racism in spite of the history of Islamic spread in Africa. I'm drawing attention to this specifically because we're talking about how do they see us? Who and what are we in the eyes of the world? Because it's important that we relate it, and I'm going to take it somewhere eventually. Now, Hush Puppy was in Dubai. He lived in opulence, openly in Dubai. Dubai is, to my knowledge, the only Arab country that hasn't suffered any significant terrorist attack. So he's got an excellent security service. One of the things security services do routinely is to track money. Routinely. Every security service in the world tracks money. Is the easiest way to catch a thief. When they couldn't catch one of these gangsters, I believe it was Al Capone, they followed his money man. But Hush Puppy was smack bang in the middle of Dubai, living the big life. The Emiratis had no problem with Hush Puppy. But the moment the bubble burst, the poor Nigerian looking to do the menial jobs for which he barely gets treated as half human is suddenly stigmatized critically by the same people who had no problem tolerating the excesses of Hush Puppy, despite the fact that they must have known that the money he was spending was dodgy. But why would they say anything? They say our rulers bring our money as well. So for all they knew, we could also have been working for one of our rulers. But all of a sudden, because of Hush Puppy, Nigerians have become persona non grata, not to be offered the menial jobs that they have escaped our paradise turned to hell to go and do in the hell that is called Dubai, or any part of the Middle East. Our females sold into slavery by our own. Oman, Jordan, all parts of the Middle East. So how do they see us? They don't really see us as being much of human beings. For them, we're chattels. They have a long history of treating us as chattels, despite the protestations of Islam. This is not an attack on the religion, I'm merely stating the fact as it relates to the culture of the Middle East. Now, let's move on a little and talk about our new overlords or likely overlords, the Chinese, and the other Asians. Let me quickly point this out. European civilization essentially developed out of biblical precepts. As hypocritical as the application might have been when we came into contact with them, their civilization evolved on biblical precepts. One of the foundation of that precept is the one that says that all men are equal because we are made in the image of God and in his likeness. So, and that was the foundation really of the abolishment movement. And it was the foundation of Lincoln's Declaration of the Emancipation. I don't even know which one, but that was the basis of the fight against slavery. The fact that all men were deemed to have been made in the image of God and in his likeness. That is the foundational principle of Western democracy and civilization. Even as beastly it has been in his contacts with the black man, that is the foundation. The Chinese, on the other hand, the Orientals generally, are people who believe that you're born to be a particular way. They believe that if a man is born into a class, he lives and dies within that class. They make no pretense as to how human rights are viewed. We see it every day. We're not blind. At least we can still watch the world news. So essentially, really, in the pecking order for the Chinese man, we are really way down the pecking order. Don't let's kid ourselves. Now, remember those treaties that I spoke of at the beginning, when the British were busy acquiring the colony of Nigeria? Yeah, those ones. Amici was talking about one the other day in the National Assembly. How many of them have they signed? What are the terms? My children are going to be paying for railway lines that will never carry them. Because think about it. The rest of the world is busy building all sorts of intracity rail and tube lines. And our country is acquiring debts for generations unborn for single gauge railway lines. Some cases, okay, double gauge, but these are technologies that date back God knows how many years, obsolete, and they are mortgaging the future. Remember, our forefathers could not sign the treaties with the English. They didn't read English. They couldn't speak it. They made their mark. I assure you, the Nigerian government official who signed these contracts, they don't understand Chinese. They also made their mark. Yeah, they did it in English language. Signing contracts they couldn't read in our names. Now, it is important for us to understand something. In the new world order that we are entering post-COVID, the West is going to, before COVID anyway, the West was already becoming increasingly less dependent on our natural resources. America, thanks to Trump, have become irreversibly independent of us as far as oil consumption is concerned, domestic oil consumption. The only people buying our oil will be the Chinese and other Orientals. They don't care what we do to ourselves. They don't care what we do to ourselves. If we like, we break. If we like, anything we like, we do to ourselves. But those are the ones that will be coming. They don't preach democracy. They don't pretend to be democratic. And don't worry, the age is long gone. The American mask has come off, you and I can already see, really, at the end of the day, America is nobody's policeman. They've got their own. In fact, sometimes I wonder which one is worse. Is it Trump or is it Buhari? So they might even envy us sometimes, really. At least our own keeps quiet. But here is the thing, brothers and sisters. Our likely colonial masters, if we continue along the line that we're traveling right now, don't really care what we do with ourselves. It is up to us to determine what we want to do with ourselves. I did promise, didn't I? I said I was going to talk to the Nigerians in the diaspora. Yeah, none of you are happy abroad. Why would anybody want to live adding yourselves like Eskimos, especially those ones in London like Abasumi? Fact of the matter is that if you had your way, if it was okay back home, you would all be back here. They are the same ones. You were the ones who saw the future. Some of you ran away, some of you in my generation, for instance. I remember I laughed when some people said they were never coming back. Now you look like the wisest ones amongst us. So if the truth be told, you are the same ones, and now you're gone. But even though you've left, you never left now, did you? I have friends amongst you. Nigerian news comes to me first through my friends abroad. Robert, I greet you. Cheto, thank you for the news. So here is the thing, you guys are like Abibus. One leg in, one leg out. So yeah, I want to talk to you tonight. You are the remnant. You heard me right. You're the remnants. Might not be here, but you are here. Because you live in systems that works. You know the meaning of workable systems. The idiocy of tribalism and all this backwards religiosity must have by now dawned on most of you. And to a very large extent, you are the remnant. You're the remnant in the sense that it might be left to you to rebuild this space. Because the way things are going in Nigeria, we will need you to also wake up. We need you to speak. If we can demonstrate in Nigeria, you can demonstrate where you are. You can lend us a voice because there are tough days. The Nigerian middle class is under attack. You might not be aware of it just yet, but those of them who work in the banking industry, they know exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of people got their sack letters this week in the banking industry. I know that the same is going on across the oil industry. What is happening is very simple. Nigeria has become a feudalized democracy. Our feudal lords are slave traders. And they're going to sell Nigeria and Nigerians to the Chinese and whoever else cares to buy. I just showed you the analogy for how we were sold originally to the British. And I'm showing you once again the analogy of how we're being sold to the Chinese. If you doubt me, check out what's been happening in the National Assembly. I'm speaking to you specifically in the diaspora because you are the remnants. You are the one with brains. Those of us who remain, we are the crazy ones. We're stupid. We stayed back. You've left. You are in spaces where you can talk and your voices matter in these times. There is nothing normal about what's going on in Nigeria right now. There is nothing normal about what happened and has been happening in this national space. Now, let me blow your mind. Imagine at the same level of satellite that had been brought to bear in the National Assembly, and that wasn't even any satellite. It's just a roving light, just because they are playing their usual games. We caught glimpses of the mess that is going on behind the veil. Imagine that the same light is shone on governments all across the length and breadth of Nigeria. What do you think is going on? They're selling us. We need you to speak up. It is your duty. You can't sit where you are, where you have peace and quiet, where you can even lend a voice, protest, go in front of our embassy. Let the world know what is going on in Nigeria. They're selling us. We need your voices. Speak up for us. Don't keep quiet. See what happened yesterday. Young men and women out on the street protest. Look at what they've done to them. Look at the young ones that have now again been clamped in cells. What did they do? They asked questions of the leadership that has become completely moribund and irresponsible. Speak up. You have voices. You're in sane environments. History will not remember that you could speak for us and you didn't. And you know what? Even your children, they won't come back home because they know they don't belong where they are. Your silence renders you complicit. Speak for us. Good night, everybody.